The story of the 50 Faces podcast began in the spring of 2020 during the dark early days of the pandemic. As we faced an uncertain future with periods of isolation from our work colleagues and an uncertain length of work disruption, I knew I needed to find a professional project that would completely absorb me. I had always known for years that there were certain people whose stories just needed to be told in the world of investing. And this seemed like the right time to tell those stories. From my office at home, I gathered stories from around the world. We got to 50 and the 50 Faces podcast was born. Fast forward now 18 months and we have gathered a diverse library of role models of over 100 guests. We have gathered a rich tapestry of career stories and career trajectories, as well as comments on issues of the day delivered in a way that will make them relevant for some time. We've set up a production company, 50 Faces Productions. In each podcast, I ask guests to start with their childhood, their upbringing, their career hopes and dreams. I asked them how they ultimately entered their career of choice and whether there were any twists and turns along that way, including any surprises. We look at whether there were people who influenced them, whether they had a mentor, or whether maybe the absence of a mentor is the story in this person's career trajectory. We look at other key people in their lives, whether those key people had provided them with words of wisdom, how they had influenced them. We hear about wisdom from grandmothers that grew up in rural Alabama or in the west of Ireland. We hear about the motivation of sports in life, of music, of jazz. Our podcasts reveal that there is so much more that unites us than divides us. That will remind us that we are all essentially human, and that should hopefully contribute to the sense of inclusion across many industries. Initially, we started with the investment industry, but it quickly became clear that the problem of underrepresentation and lack of diversity was a problem in other industries too, such as tech or the legal world. So we launched a series of spin-off podcasts called the 50 Faces Focus Series. We also developed regional series, one focused on Nigeria and one on Israel. And in June, for Pride Month, we launched a special series focused on LGBTQ+ professionals, something we are planning to do every year. As a host, the exercise of listening, really listening closely to every guest, was a deeply rewarding and humbling experience. The 50 Faces guests also found the experience to be rewarding and fulfilling too.
I was thrilled to be invited to be a guest on the 50 Faces podcast. I thought it was a great opportunity for me to be able to share my journey and some of the lessons that I learned along the way. And so I hope that it is a great lesson for others who are thinking about joining the finance and investment industry over time. One of the things that I love about the 50 Faces podcast is its mission. It's really focused on trying to spotlight women and minorities. And so I do believe that it will serve as a great sort of opportunity for people to see different career paths that maybe they weren't exposed to, because you can't be what you can't see, and so it really does serve as a valuable tool for them.
As our library of role models grew, we wanted to make the content more accessible and searchable. For example, female CIOs, Black leaders, LGBTQ+ professionals. So that was behind the vision for the 50 Faces Hub. We gathered together all of our content and organized it by theme and keyword. We also wanted to provide links to some extraordinary affinity groups, whether groups started by our guests or groups that our guests have found helpful in their own careers. We also have a well-being hub, which contains short meditations as well as coaching videos to help with career development and enrichment. The problem of underrepresentation in finance, as well as many other industries, is often couched as one of the chicken or the egg. Is it a question of a problem with the pipeline, that the pipeline is not as diverse as it needs to be, that recruiters simply can't find the talent? Or is the problem one of progression through the pipeline, that mid-level professionals are dropping out because they don't see enough people who look like them in the industry? At the 50 Faces podcast and the 50 Faces Hub, we aim to address this at the pipeline stage, at the mid-level stage, and at every point in between and beyond. By providing access to a library of role models, we show young people entering the industry people who look like them succeeding in it. We provide access to affinity groups, tips for career advancement, tips that our guests wish they had known earlier. For mid-level career professionals, we provide insights into how other careers have taken twists and turns, into how leaps of faith have been taken and have succeeded. For professionals near the end of their executive career who are interested in pursuing a portfolio career or a selection of board or chair roles, our Next Chapter series provides access to a range of professionals who have successfully executed that leap. We ask them for their tips as to what makes a truly good, effective director or chair. The belief that you can't be what you can't see is the mission and guiding principle that governs everything we do at the 50 Faces podcast and the 50 Faces Hub. We hope that no matter where you are in your career, that you will find some nuggets of wisdom to take away. Thank you for your support and enjoy the 50 Faces podcast and the 50 Faces Hub.